I don't know how I feel about this filming setup, but my computer is right here and I don't want to move it, so you're stuck with it like this. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Just another struggling writer. The Beleaguered Author's one-stop shop for commiseration and hopefully inspiration. My name is Carrie Scher, and I am just another struggling writer. Well, if you watched any of my videos last week, especially the reading vlog video, you'll know that I am trying to take a different approach with my weekly reading vlogs. Basically, I feel like just talking about what I am reading every week is no longer working for me as a creative, and I want to explore some new ways to do my reading vlogs. So that's what we're doing here. This is going to be sort of a soft launch of this idea with a reading vlog that is more or less the same as it was, except I am actually going to be traveling while reading. This week, my partner and I are traveling to Nashville for a work conference for my partner, and I am just tagging along, which means I plan on getting a ton of reading done. Specifically, I'm aiming to finish at least 4 books, and all 4 of those books are library checkouts. I fell a little bit behind this month with my library reads because of that week I lost suffering migraines, so I'm really playing catch up in a lot of different ways. So if I can knock out these library reads while I'm traveling this week, I will be back in really good shape. So the 4 books I am planning on reading this week are, first, Spells for Forgetting by Adrienne Young. I read The Unmaking of June Farrow by this author earlier this year, and I liked the writing style, but it was a little bit too soft of a fantasy for me to really sink my teeth into, and I think this is probably more of the same, magical realism, but mostly based in the real world. So I'm not entirely sure if it'll be to my taste, but this author's writing is very beautiful. And I've also heard it's perfect for fall, so I think this will be a great way to kick off the fall season. The second book I am planning on reading is The Jasad Heir by Sarah Hashem, and yes, I know I have mentioned this a number of times on this channel, but for real, I'm actually going to try and read this book this week. I am making it a priority. After that, I plan to pick up The Color of Magic by Terry Pratchett. This is the first-ish, I think, book in his Discworld series. I know that it's a very, very large series and there are many, many entrance points, but this is the one that I found, so this is where I'm starting. And finally, the 4th book I'm going to try and read this week is Heavenbreaker by Sarah Wolfe. I've heard mixed things about this book, but the key thing that got me interested is that it is jousting with giant robots, and I'm down for that, so looking forward to getting into that one as well. If I manage to finish all 4 books, I don't know that I will, but if I do, I will try and pick up a book out of my owned Kindle library. I have a few in mind that I'd like to have an excuse to read, but I want to get through my library books first, so I'm not going to pick one out at this time. So I'm going to try and be better about filming clips and B-roll while we are on this trip. Last time I traveled with my daughter, I was not very good at it, but we were busier than I expected with her choir conference. This time I'm really just a tag along, not a chaperone. So I'm hoping to have more time both to read and to actually vlog the experience. And with that, I better get into bed because we've got a really early flight in the morning. Nashville. From Nashville. Today is now Tuesday, and yes, that means I have been here for over 24 hours without actually sitting down to talk to you guys, but there's a good reason for it. Yesterday was a travel day. We got on the plane first thing in the morning, and then we arrived at this resort that my partner's company is putting us up in. And since it was the only day this week that my partner didn't have any company events to attend, we decided to just spend the whole day relaxing and enjoying ourselves and taking part in some of the amenities that this resort has to offer. So I honestly wasn't doing a lot of reading. I did do a little bit of reading on the plane, not a ton, because it wasn't a very long flight. And then I really didn't do much after that either. And what was the point of updating if I hadn't really accomplished anything? But it is now Tuesday, and while most of this day has been spent, again, just kind of enjoying myself, I did actually finish my first book of this vlog. So didn't stop to update you. I did kind of read it almost entirely in one sitting, and that is Spells for Forgetting by Adrienne Young. And this is about a young woman named Emery and her long lost love August, and the traumatic history shared between them that eventually drove August from the small island where they grew up and caused a rift between them that really never healed. And it is now almost 15 years later, and all of the dark secrets and all the tragic history between them, all of the dark underbelly of that is now coming to light, and they're coping with all of that together. And it's not really a fantasy book. It is more magical realism, which was the same sort of vibe that her other book that I read earlier this year, The Unmaking of June Farrow, gave off. And if you recall, I didn't really love that book either. It was just not for me. And again, this one just wasn't for me. It's very beautifully written. Adrienne Young's writing style is so lush, and it was perfect for fall. But again, it's just not my favorite kind of story. So I'm probably going to end up giving it 3, maybe 3.5 stars. I'm going to sleep on it. Like I said, the writing is very, very beautiful, and the mystery, I cared way more about this mystery than I did in The Unmaking of June Farrow. That one I didn't care about at all. This one, I did want to know kind of how things had unfolded. There had been a death in the past that seemed suspicious. August was the one being blamed for it, but never charged. Anyway, I really wanted to know how that all panned out. I was a little bit disappointed in the ending, but I also think that there isn't really anything else that they could do in the end. Like I said, not my favorite kind of style of book, but very beautiful if you like the sort of magical realism. And again, Adrienne Young's writing is very, very beautiful. So that is my update for now. I've got to get some writing done because I haven't really done much of that a lot either. And my goal is to later this evening settle in and finally start the Jasad Heir. It has been a long time coming with that book, and I think it is now finally time to actually start reading it. So that is my plan. Wish me luck. I will try and film a little bit more for you. The rest of this week, starting like right now, my partner is at a company event. The rest of his week is pretty much all bogged down with company events, and I'm kind of on my own. So I'm going to check out some of the other amenities. I know there's some live music events at the resort this week, so I'm going to try and do some of that. So I will carry you guys along with it and hopefully show you it every step of the way, and also get some reading and writing done. So I'll check in with you later. Hello, everyone. It is now Thursday morning, and things have taken a turn here in Nashville. First, yesterday I didn't do too much of anything. I had a migraine and I laid in bed a whole lot, and I just felt a little bit listless and not really inspired to do much. I ended up watching, like, between Monday and yesterday, my partner and I watched like the entire first season of Supernatural. Like, that's how much like we've been just hanging out in our hotel room and not really feeling up to socializing out there. I mentioned that we can't leave the resort. We're stuck here. And some of these events, most of these events I can't even attend. They're company only. And so he has been like kind of sneaking out of them early so we can go have dinner or hang out up here. So there hasn't really been that much for me to do outside of this room. So you would think that that would mean I would have plenty of time to read and write. What can I say? I'm on vacation. But I did read the first 10% of the Jasad Heir. I like this writer's writing style, and I'm interested to see where it goes. I just haven't felt super inspired to pick it up. But my goal is to read a whole bunch today. We'll see. Not a whole bunch, but more than certainly more than I did yesterday. And hopefully finish it tomorrow. Now, here's the caveat. Because of the hurricane that is currently barreling its way towards the coast, we were offered the chance to kind of scoot out of here early. My partner's company said, yes, you can leave the event early and try and get back home, because the fear is that the weather is going to shut down travel. So we went ahead and we got our flight switched. So now we are leaving tonight, this evening, to try and get out ahead of it so we won't theoretically be stuck here tomorrow when the weather is worse. Today has just been like emergency, like getting our flight switched and making sure we're all good and getting everything repacked. Our flight does not leave until 7:30. So we're here at the resort until about 5 o'clock. And I am trying to wrap up anything that I can do while I'm, again, just stuck here. I've got some writing I'm going to do, and then I'm going to try and get a little bit more read. Like I said, my goal is to read like 150 pages today. That will put me just under the 50% mark of the book, and then finish it tomorrow. So we'll just see how I feel tomorrow. I've got to pick up my dogs and unpack and all of that stuff, but we'll be home and it'll be a little bit easier to, kind of unwind and feel comfortable. So that is my reading update. Not very exciting. I'm kind of bummed that we have to leave a little bit early, but there wasn't really much we were going to be able to do today or tomorrow anyway. Our big fear was that we would get stuck and we'd have to spend another night in Nashville, and that's obviously not ideal. So not as exciting of a travel vlog as I anticipated, but it is what it is. So I will check in with you probably tomorrow and let you know how much reading I have gotten done. Hello, everyone. It is now Friday evening, and I am thankfully back home. And you will probably not be surprised to learn that I did not read 150 pages yesterday at the airport or on the plane. I read about 50, and then a horrible headache set in. And I was just so tired and so stressed about the mad dash to get out of town that I ended up doing nothing but crosswords on the plane, and then came home and got straight into bed. But I am reading right now. I have just hit the 25% mark of the Jasad Heir, and I have some thoughts. My first thought is that it takes a little bit too long to get to the point, which I think I just hit, kind of the setup for the rest of the book. It just takes a little bit too long. 125 pages is a little bit too long for me to understand what the story will be, in my opinion. Secondly, I think I do like the writing style. I think I am enjoying it. But I feel like the main character, Sylvia, is a little bit hit or miss. It doesn't feel like her characterization, it's not consistent, I don't think. And I understand that that is a product of her upbringing or of the last 15 years of her life where she's been in hiding and having to hide who she is, having to hide her magic, having endured quite a brutal period of time with a person who wanted to use her and whatnot. But I'm just really struggling with kind of the yo-yo of her personality. It just doesn't feel very consistent. There are times where she's really funny and really like cavalier in the face of imminent death, and I love that in a character. I love when characters take that approach. But she's also like still, all she can think about is escape and her own personal safety, and that has led her to kind of disregard threats made against her loved ones, which I don't really love. And she's just saying, well, the person who has captured me is lying to me. And I don't love that complete lack of thinking things through for someone who is supposed to have survived being hunted for the last decade and a half. So I'm not quite sure where I land on Sylvia. I think I do like, again, the thrust of the story where these two people on opposite sides of a war. One is part of a kingdom that committed genocide against her own, and she is the heir to this kingdom that's been wiped out, which makes her existence even more dangerous than just anyone else who was part of this kingdom and had magic. But I also like this person's, Aaron's, need for her, or like what he says he needs her for, and the setup and all of that. I think I like all of that. I just wish that Sylvia was a little bit more. I'm just having a hard time connecting with her because, like I said, I don't think her characterization has hit it for me just yet. So my goal is to read the next 25%, get up to the 50% mark tonight, and then hopefully finish it tomorrow. We will see how that goes. That's where I'm at. I remember at the beginning of this vlog when I said I was going to read 4 books this week. Yeah, that's not happening. If I'm lucky, I'll finish this one and then I'll read one short one. The Color of Magic by Terry Pratchett is next on my list. And I believe that's pretty short, but I'm doubtful. Honestly, I truly am doubtful. At least we'll have 2. 2 is my goal per week. So 2 won't be bad. We'll just have to see how my day goes tomorrow. So that is my check-in. I will check in with you tomorrow morning, assuming I hit 50% tonight like I am planning. And then again once I've finished. I don't know how I feel about this filming setup, but my computer is right here and I don't want to move it, so you're stuck with it like this. It is now Saturday afternoon, and as promised last night, I got to the 50% mark of the Jasad Heir by Sarah Hashem. And I was thinking about what I said last night about Sylvia's character being kind of confused and kind of mercurial and hard to connect with. And after reading a little bit more last night, I actually think that Sylvia is kind of a microcosm of the entire book, because this whole plot and the book and the world also feels kind of confused and mercurial and hard to pin down and difficult to connect with. There's just a lot going on. So many characters and politics and factions and competing motivations and conflicting histories going on. And in a way, it makes sense because a real world would have all of those things. And it's not always going to be a neat and tidy package. And especially a character like Sylvia is going to be influenced and touched by all of these different corners, competing for time, attention, and whatnot. But as a narrative, it makes it a little hard to follow and a little bit swampy and just a little bit wayward, I think. And here's the thing, there are moments where I feel like I really do like it. I like the plot. I like how there are shades of gray. There's no one good character. But at the same time, I have concerns. The main male character who has kind of blackmailed Sylvia into competing in this competition has made comments about how the country that was wiped out, that was, genocided pretty much out of existence, was not perfect, and they were hurting other people, and they were talking about, and he was talking specifically about the crimes of the royal family and how they were tyrannical and hurting the neighboring countries and greedy and using their magic to subjugate others. And I get that he's supposed to be like the bad guy, but not really. He's not really the bad guy. He's part of the enemy kingdom, and so his perspective is tainted. But I just fear that is going to be the narrative that Sylvia justifies to however the relationship goes, or however, even if it's non-romantic, which I'm pretty sure that it is, but even just going along with his plan and everything, because that's not an excuse for genocide. The sins of those in power should not ever trickle down to those without power. And in this case, it did. Many, many innocents were slaughtered and are slaughtered to this day. And yes, this main male character is supposed to, I'm sure it's going to come out later that whenever he captures one of these fugitive Jasadis, he secretly tries to help them keep it on the low, and he's not actually killing them all. But many, many other people in the kingdom are. When they find out that someone has magic, they are just outright killing them. And so I don't really care for the excuses that we're getting, and I'm really dubious that that's just going to be the party line that is accepted, and I don't love that. And then there was also a moment where, and this goes back to Sylvia's character being a little bit confused. Not like she is confused, but her character is, it's so hard to pin her down into what her motivations are and what she really thinks and wants. Because she is a Jasad Heir. She was part of the royal family that escaped the massacre. And she is constantly at odds with this main male character, Aaron, because of her history and because of his role in the genocide. And she's constantly saying things like, that doesn't justify this, and we were slaughtered, we're good people, all this stuff. But then there was a moment where he says something about, these are your people, and she says, they're not my people. And apparently it's this deep down emotion that she has, that she is not one of them. She is not part of this group. She doesn't identify with them. She doesn't want to be counted among them. And so I'm just kind of struggling with these two facets of her personality and her motivations, and how she connects and identifies with her cultural upbringing. And I can see how those two can exist inside the same person at the same time, but I don't think the author is doing a very good job of demonstrating the nuance required for those two things. And so that's a little bit frustrating. It was sitting about a 3.5. Now I'm kind of around a 3 right now, but I still have just over 200 pages to go. So I'm going to try and get it finished tonight. I unfortunately lollygagged a bit this morning and haven't gotten started on hardly anything productive. I edited a video. I'm going to try and get it finished tonight. Still got some homework to do. Still got some writing to do. That's my goal. So the next time you'll see me is when I check in with you once I have finished the Jasad Heir. Hello, everyone. It is now Sunday morning. And I have just finished the Jasad Heir. Thank God. I know I said I was going to finish it last night, but look, it was a Saturday night and distractions happened. But I woke up this morning with a mission to go ahead and finish it, and that is exactly what I did. My thoughts are not really that much changed for having finished. This book has got so much in it that it ends up muddying what I think the plot is, and the goals and the characterization of our main character. I'm just going to move you around here a little bit. The frustrating thing is that there are moments of this book that are so good. So good. There are moments that I was just like, yes, this is what I want. Funnily enough, my favorite aspect was the romance, because it wasn't quite a romance. I mean, it was a romantic subplot. It wasn't a romance. But I really just liked seeing those two characters slowly come together. And I think this is closer to actual enemies to lovers than the trope has sometimes been used as, because these two people are truly on opposite sides of a blood war. And all the way up even until the climax, the main character sees him as a weapon that was used against her people, and still comments on it, and still remarks on his efficiency as a killer, specifically as used against her people. But the reason I find that interesting, that she is developing feelings for him, is because she feels a certain disconnect from her identity as a member of these people, partially because she was just a child during the main thrust of the genocide, and then she was essentially kidnapped and trained brutally by a disaffected member of this group trying to seize power. And she to protect herself, she walled off that part of her identity, and so she has a hard time. She can logically chafe and resent and fight against the discrimination and the brutality that her people suffered, but inside she has a very, very self-forward goal, which is survive. Get away from the people trying to kill her, specifically people who view magic and view her people as monsters, and just survive. And I really can't fault her for that. She witnessed a very brutal massacre, and then suffered at the hands of someone who was quite deranged, trying to make her into a leader of these people who are scattered, but only the leader that they want. And really all she wants is to be a person and to live. So I found that interplay, that disconnect of her identity, it allowed her to see this person who is the current face of the genocide as a person. So I really enjoyed that. The problem is everything outside of them was just so muddled, because I think that Sarah Hashem just tried to do too much in this book. That we've got rebel factions, we've got ancient horrific magical practices, we've got corrupt royals, we've got a tournament, we've got the romantic subplot, we've got the main character's internal struggles with her identity, and the mystery of why her magic has been locked away. We've got these competing interests, we've got interpersonal relationships, and it just was too much. It was just too much. And I think what really drove that point home was in the third act, a character from the main character's past is reintroduced, and it is someone who she thought was dead, and she's very overwhelmed with emotion by seeing this person, and it's very emotional, and the way that things play out is difficult for her, and I felt nothing. I recognized the person's name because it had been used enough in the lead up, but there just wasn't enough done to establish what their relationship was in the past to make me care. And it really made it hard for me to believe that she cared. And so I think that's really this book's downfall, is that it has so many great ideas, but not enough execution for any of them except the romantic subplot. And maybe I'm wrong for that, but I just found that the internal struggles, the internal dynamics, and the way they interplayed with each other's issues, I found that just to be the most compelling. Kind of disappointed. I was really hoping, I really liked the writing style, and like I said, there were moments where I was just like, oh my God, I loved it. But I just think this book could have benefited from a little bit more narrowing of focus and trimming away some elements that didn't really serve the plot as much. Oh, and I also thought that the ending was a little bit abrupt. Oh, and I like the whole political explanations for the massacre on her family and the genocide. I didn't understand. That was the other thing. It was because it was so confusing, because there were so many elements, I didn't follow it at all. And so again, towards the end, when everything is being laid bare, I was like, okay, fine, I don't get it, whatever. It ultimately didn't matter to me because the result is the same. I'm a little bit disappointed because I do like the writer's writing style. I wanting more Middle Eastern inspired fantasy, and I'm wanting more really deep political aspects of it, but this one was just too chaotic in its approach. Chaotic isn't the right word. It was just so full of things that were ultimately meaningless, and they were rendered meaningless because of the sheer volume, and so nothing got the page time to make me care. So that's it. I had intentions of reading The Color of Magic today, but it is not seeming like that is going to be the case. I just have too much to do. Back to real life tomorrow, regretfully, so I've got to do some laundry, I've got to get my house cleaned up, I've got to get groceries, I've got to edit a video, I've got to do homework. So that's going to wrap up this reading vlog. Sadly, only half of my intended books were read, but 2 is better than none. And the Jasad Heir is quite long. It's almost 500 pages. So I read almost 900 pages this week, which is more than I usually do. So I'm going to take that as a win. And with that, thank you so much for watching on this kind of experimental travel/reading vlog that ended up to be more of just a regular reading vlog. In my next video, I have to do that today too. In my next video, I will have a October cozy reset for you. I hope you look forward to it, and I will see you then.